Every winter we shovel the same gray dust out of our fireplaces. Pioneering Americans once paid their taxes with this dust. Today we bag it and send it to the landfill, and we treat it like waste while buying the same minerals from overseas. The first U.S. patent ever signed protected this ash for its power to turn ordinary plants into fruit-laden giants. If a single household product could quadruple your harvest, why did we decide it belongs in the trash? The answer reveals who profits and what we have been missing right under our noses. The word potash is older than the United States itself. Farmers saved the ashes from their winter fires, poured water over them in iron pots, and collected the dissolved minerals that remained. That gray residue leached from wood and boiled down became the world's first concentrated source of potassium. The name potassium traces back to those pots of ash, proof that the element at the heart of modern fertilizers was once a household staple, not an industrial import. In the years after the American Revolution, potash was more than just a farm supply. It was a form of wealth. Barrels of ash were traded like currency across the frontier, stamped and recorded in ledgers, and used to pay taxes in states like Vermont and Maine. Demand was so great that by the late 1700s, hundreds of potash works dotted New England, their furnaces burning day and night to feed the needs of soap makers, glass blowers, and farmers hungry for better yields. On July 31, 1790, the United States government issued its very first patent. It was not for a steam engine or a cotton gin. Patent number 1 went to Samuel Hopkins, a Quaker from Philadelphia, for a new method to make potash from wood ashes. His process used a kiln-like furnace to extract more mineral from every batch, turning what others saw as waste into a valuable commodity. President George Washington signed the patent himself, along with Secretary of State Thomas Jefferson and Attorney General Edmund Randolph. The document survives in the archives, a faded page that still bears their names. Hopkins's invention helped to transform potash from a cottage chore into a national industry. For decades, American potash rivaled any in the world, fueling both the young country's economy and its soil. The story of wood ash is written not just in chemistry books, but on the very first page of American innovation, proof that what we now sweep aside once built fortunes and fed a nation. For nearly a century, barrels of potash stood alongside furs and timber as the backbone of the rural economy. In towns from Vermont to Ohio, farmers loaded wagons with ash, trading it at local markets or shipping it downriver to bustling ports. Prices held steady, sometimes outpacing wheat or corn. Potash receipts filled ledgers, and tax collectors in New England accepted it as payment. A single barrel could fetch $20 or $30, enough to buy a cow or pay a year's rent. Ash was wealth you could scoop from your own hearth. But in 1861, a discovery in the salt mines of Stassfurt, Germany, changed everything. Deep underground, miners struck vast deposits of potassium salts, far richer and easier to process than any household ash. German chemists refined the product into what they called muriate of potash, a concentrated fertilizer that could be shipped anywhere in the world. The effect on the American market was immediate. Within a decade, imported potash began pouring into eastern ports. By the 1880s, prices for barreled ash collapsed. What once sold for $50 a ton now struggled to bring $15 a ton. Farmers noticed the change in their pocketbooks first. Trade journals from the 1880s tell of homesteads abandoning the old ash kettles and potash works shutting their doors. Collecting and leaching ash was heavy, dirty labor, and now the rewards had vanished. Instead of saving every bucket, families swept the dust out the door. The commodity that had built fortunes and paid debts was suddenly obsolete, replaced by a product mined half a world away and delivered by rail and steamship. By the turn of the 20th century, the old potash economy had faded into memory. Ash returned to its humble place as a byproduct of winter fires, no longer a source of pride or profit, but something to be discarded. The mineral that once fueled a national industry now slipped quietly into the waste stream, its value forgotten as the world embraced the promise of industrial fertilizers. Plants need more than sunlight and water to thrive. The minerals locked inside wood ash are the very nutrients that drive a garden, from leafy green growth to heavy, abundant fruit. At its core, wood ash is loaded with potassium, often labeled as the letter K in those familiar fertilizer numbers. Typical hardwood ash tests set an NPK ratio of 0, 1, 10. That means 0 nitrogen, a trace of phosphorus, and a surge of potassium, sometimes reaching up to 10% by weight. This single number tells the story. Potassium is the fuel for flowering and fruiting. When a tomato or pepper plant starts to bloom, potassium acts like a switch, moving water and sugars from the leaves down into the fruit. Without enough, plants grow tall and lush but stall out, big leaves, few flowers, and disappointing harvests. Potassium's role does not stop there. It helps plants survive drought, resist disease, and build the sugars that make fruit taste sweet. But wood ash brings a second powerhouse to the table: calcium. Up to a quarter of every scoop is calcium carbonate, the same ingredient found in garden lime. Calcium strengthens cell walls, making fruits firmer and less likely to rot. In tomatoes, calcium is the secret weapon against blossom end rot, the black sunken scars that ruin a perfect crop. Where commercial fertilizers split these nutrients into separate bags, wood ash combines them in every handful, ready for the soil to unlock. The result is a mineral boost that turns green growth into real food. In acidic soils, a light dusting of wood ash can raise the soil pH and deliver both potassium and calcium in forms plants absorb right away. The numbers are not just chemistry, they are the difference between a garden that grows and a garden that feeds. A scoop of wood ash can do more for your garden than most store-bought fertilizers, but only when used with care. The first method is simple dusting. For tomatoes, peppers, and squash, measure out 1 to 2 tablespoons of sifted hardwood ash per plant. Sprinkle it in a ring around the drip line, never right against the stem, just before rain or watering. Repeat every 2 to 4 weeks during the fruiting season. This delivers potassium and calcium where the roots can use it without overwhelming the soil. For a gentler approach, make ash tea. Take 1 cup of clean wood ash and stir it into 3 to 5 gallons of water. Let the mix sit for 24 hours, then pour off the brown liquid, leaving any grit behind. Use this to drench the soil around established plants. The minerals are already dissolved, so the boost comes fast, but the dilution prevents burning tender roots. Apply every 2 to 3 weeks, never on seedlings. Ash tea gives a fast, gentle potassium boost. The safest way to use wood ash is right in the compost pile. Layer thin amounts, about 5 to 10% of your total compost volume, between grass clippings, leaves, and kitchen scraps. The ash neutralizes excess acidity, speeds up decomposition, and charges the finished compost with minerals. When spread in the garden, this buffered ash feeds everything from beans to melons without risking big swings in soil acidity. No matter the method, always use only clean hardwood ash and keep it away from acid-loving crops. The right dose turns a waste product into a harvest multiplier. Ash is powerful, but it is not a cure-all. The first rule is simple. Only use ash from clean, untreated hardwood. Softwoods like pine or spruce contain more resins and fewer minerals, making their ash less effective and sometimes even harmful to plants. Never use ash from charcoal briquettes, painted wood, or pressure-treated wood. These can introduce toxic chemicals into your soil. Certain crops must be left out. Blueberries, azaleas, rhododendrons, and other acid-loving plants cannot handle the alkalinity of wood ash. Adding ash to their soil raises the pH too high, stunting growth or killing the plant outright. Potatoes are another exception. Even a light sprinkle can trigger potato scab, a tough, corky skin disease that ruins the harvest. Keep ash far from these crops, no matter how tempting it is to use every last scoop. Dosage matters. More is not better. A heavy hand with ash can push soil pH past the sweet spot, locking out nutrients and burning roots. Early warning signs include yellowing leaves, wilted stems, or a white crust forming on the soil surface. If these appear, stop all ash applications and test your soil before adding anything else. Extension services recommend no more than 5 to 10 pounds of ash per 100 square feet each season. For individual plants, stick to a tablespoon or two at a time, spaced out over several weeks. When in doubt, use less and watch how your garden responds. Respecting these boundaries turns wood ash into a reliable ally, not a hidden hazard. In one backyard, 2 garden beds stood side by side through a single growing season. Both beds held the same variety of tomato, planted on the same day, watered from the same hose, and tended by the same hands. The only difference was that one bed received a careful dusting of hardwood ash, measured at 1 tablespoon per plant every 2 weeks, while the other grew without. Each fruit was picked, weighed, and logged from first blush to final frost. By the end of August, the numbers told a story that no catalog or fertilizer bag could match. The untreated bed produced 5.5 pounds of tomatoes per plant, a respectable harvest for the home gardener. In the ash-treated bed, the scale tipped past 22 pounds per plant. 4 times the fruit, with firmer skins and fewer blemishes. Extension agents from the local university reviewed the records and confirmed the protocol. Same soil, same sun, same water, only the ash was new. The difference was visible at a glance. Plants in the ash bed stood dense and loaded, their vines sagging under the weight of ripening clusters. Leaves stayed deep green and blossom end rot. The curse of calcium-hungry tomatoes was almost non-existent. Neighbors came to see the results themselves. Some doubted at first, suspecting a trick of variety or luck. But the logs and photos held up. The numbers matched what researchers in Georgia and Finland had seen in controlled trials. Wood ash, when used on potassium-poor soil, could boost yields not by a fraction, but by a factor. Even conservative extension studies found increases of 45% or more, especially where soil started out acidic or depleted. The backyard experimenter had kept things simple. No secret amendments, no commercial boosters, just the gray dust most people throw away. The proof was measured in pounds, not promises. For every gardener who wonders if old wisdom still works, the answer was weighed out, 1 crate at a time. The ash bed did not just grow more, it grew better, with sweeter fruit and sturdier plants. In a world of expensive bags and bottled solutions, the waste from last winter's fire had quietly rewritten the rules of harvest. Every year in the United States, up to 2 million tons of wood ash from fireplaces and stoves ends up buried in landfills. That is enough to cover hundreds of football fields a foot deep, swept up and hauled away as if it were useless. Yet the minerals in that ash, potassium, calcium, and magnesium, are the very same ingredients bagged and sold as fertilizer, shipped in from mines thousands of miles away. According to the latest USGS data, the United States now imports about 85% of its potash, with most coming from Saskatchewan in Canada, and the rest arriving from as far as Russia and Belarus. Imports like this move nutrients around the globe instead of keeping them local. The journey from mine to field is long, or is blasted from ancient seabeds, refined in energy-intensive plants, loaded onto trains, then carried by ship and truck across borders. Each ton of mined potash carries a hidden cost. It can release upwards of 1 ton of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere for every ton delivered. Meanwhile, American households pay to dispose of a homegrown alternative. The EPA audits estimate that between 1 and 2 million tons of wood ash are sent to landfill each year, with nearly all of it coming from rural homes and small towns where wood heat is common. The paradox is stark. While one branch of the supply chain burns fuel and emits carbon to dig up minerals overseas, another quietly buries the same nutrients in local dumps. If even a fraction of that ash were recycled back into gardens and farms, it could replace a significant share of imported fertilizer, slashing both costs and emissions. This is not just a question of personal savings or bigger tomatoes. It is a system where the definition of waste is shaped by what is convenient to sell, not by what is actually valuable. The mining industry profits by labeling wood ash as something to throw away, while their own product chemically almost identical, travels thousands of miles to reach the same soil. The carbon footprint of this trade is measured in millions of tons, with every bag sold representing a missed chance to close the loop at home. For gardeners and wood stove owners, the choice is simple. Keep buying minerals from halfway around the world, or reclaim the harvest hiding in last winter's ashes. Every year, Americans landfill millions of tons of wood ash while importing potassium mined from continents away. As fertilizer prices climb and supply chains fracture, this so-called waste holds the power to transform gardens and shrink our footprint. The real question now is, will we reclaim what we burn or keep paying for what we already own? Sometimes the answer is in the dust at our feet. What would you do with yours?